Welcome to TartleCast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path.
Cool. All right. Awesome, my friend.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of TartleCast. You are here with your host Alexander McKegg and our special guest
VanNess with TriCore Reference Laboratories.
TriCore Reference Labs. So Rick, let's tell everybody so they don't have to go on Wikipedia. What is TriCore?
Good comment. So TriCore Reference Laboratories is a clinical laboratory that's been around for over 2 decades in New Mexico. We're 100% focused in New Mexico. We don't have draw sites or anything outside of New Mexico. We do take esoteric tests from another hospital in Minnesota and test them. So if it's a very specialized genetic or tissue sample, we'll do that for the hospital in Minnesota. But the majority of our work is here in New Mexico, and it is all blood and anatomical pathology.
So now let's put it in layman's terms, okay? Because not everybody's an expert like you.
Okay.
You've been in this field for a long time, so your terminology, we gotta make it so everyone understands. So what does that mean?
So clinical pathology is the analysis of your blood. Anatomical is a tissue sample. So an example of that is clinical. You show up to your doctor and you say, "Hey, I'm feeling sluggish. I'm peeing in the middle of the night. Something might be wrong with me." Your doctor will say,
"Sounds like you just described me."
Well, as I go into the story, you realize it's not you. But it's basically, your doctor will say, "Okay, let's order a blood test. Let's take a look at your metabolic panel, which is like, how is your body metabolizing things? Let's take a look at your A1C. Let's make sure your glucose has been on target." And we'll analyze that blood, give the result back to the physician. And if the A1C says 6.7, your physician's going to say, "I think you're diabetic. We need to order one more blood test to confirm that."
Sure.
An example of an anatomic pathology is, you go to your doctor basically feeling, I don't feel well. I just have a variety of symptoms that might be linked to a problem associated with the liver.
Okay.
And your doctor might say, "Well, you might have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or you might have cirrhosis. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do a small incision and take a sample of your liver, send it to TriCore, and they'll confirm whether the presence or absence of this illness exists."
So then help me understand here. So how do you find that association? How do they find that understanding? So I'm taking a skin sample or blood sample from someone, and then you have to analyze it, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you guys have a lot of data behind that you work with?
We do. Lots of healthcare data. I mean, we solely rely on the physician to kind of tell us everything about that individual order.
Okay.
So when the physician says, this patient may be diabetic, I'm going to put these certain codes in that's indicative of why I'm ordering this test.
Got it.
Now, that's essential for us to get paid to do the test, right? We're going to go to the insurance and say, "Hey, this doctor ordered this test because he believed this, so we did it on behalf of the physician." The physician will then take the result and formally diagnose you.
Okay.
But yes, it's a lot of information. We need, patient demographics. We need their insurance information. We need the background from that physician. Some tests require what's called ask good order entry. So we'll ask you, "Are you fasting today?"
Oh, interesting.
Yes or no.
I fast every day. Thank you for asking.
That's why I'm surprised you're peeing in the middle of the night, my friend. So we do have a lot of information. Absolutely. Yeah. They say the clinical laboratory or the medical laboratory is responsible for the majority of medical decisions. So that's a lot of information that we have.
Okay, so then what I'm supposed to understand is that the data makes all the decisions.
Exactly.
So now, what does it feel like ease of access? So like when you're going to actually get that information from a doctor, right? Or get it from an insurance company, right? Or that health record from an individual, is that a difficult process? Does it require many steps? Is there a length of time, like an average, before you actually go and get it from the individual? Great. Now we can start doing our testing, analyzing, and moving forward. What's that look like?
Great question. Yeah, so it starts off immediately. We'll get an order from a physician today. Now it's up to the patient, and even like when the draw occurs, and that's probably too much of a path to go down. But basically by the time we touch that patient, we need to know everything about them. Their name, their phone number, their accurate demographic stuff. We need to know everything from the provider as to why they ordered the test.
Okay.
Now, this is what a lot of lab companies will focus on is, I want to make sure I get paid for that test as I'm doing the analysis.
So they want them doing both at the same time.
So that they kind of take separate paths. We're going to start trying to get paid for that as quickly as we can. in addition to, well, let's get the results to the physician as quickly as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, and by then, and this is, I know this podcast isn't about the issues of healthcare.
No, but tell me, yeah.
But what it is we know 6.7 is A1C, but we don't diagnose. Once we've got the 6.7 A1C result, we're done. We send it to the physician. It's up to him to diagnose. It's up to him or her to, properly coordinate the care necessary that's needed for that patient.
You don't need that liability telling someone listen, I know the data. I'm going to have somebody else.
I don't want to. Yeah. It sounds horrible. Yeah. But that's kind of what it comes down to.
So now help me understand. Now, if I go in and I get a blood sample or a tissue sample at your facility, and I am a patient, is there any way for me to access a patient portal that has that information? And can I see the transfers actually happening between you and the doctor and the insurance company? Do I have it all in one spot?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. Some labs do. The big labs like your Quests and your LabCorps, they've got patient portals.
Okay.
They don't necessarily expose you to the billing aspect. You usually hear about that later when you get a bill in the mail for a deductible or a copay. TriCore does not currently have a patient portal right now. It's something we're working on.
Okay.
But a patient can call us and say, hey, I want a copy of that result, or I want a copy of all my results. And they totally have the right to that. And actually, that's one of the things we believe. The patient owns their data at TriCore. So when they call us and say, I want this or that, absolutely, we're going to do our best to get it to them.
You're pulling on my heartstrings right now. That's what we do.
Good.
So now you deal with, especially in the research function at TriCore, you guys deal with large populaces of health data.
Yeah.
Right? And you're trying to do that for the betterment of outcomes. So can you tell me what it looks like for large populace studies for you and how you're actually moving that data to make a decision that can help the greater good of people?
Absolutely. So being the majority of the medical decisions, TriCore is about 60% of the state. So 6 out of 10 tests in New Mexico are performed by TriCore.
Wow.
When it comes to taking that data to aggregate it and understand from a population perspective, that's been our strategy now for about 5 years. That's what I'm directly responsible for. What we end up doing is taking that individual 6.7 A1C result we're talking about and making it more actionable and beneficial for the system. So what that entails is, if I have a lab result for Alex that says it's 6.7 A1C, my algorithms are going to look at Alex's history and say, was there an LDL above 100? Was there an HDL below 40? Where does Alex live? Is he close to care? Has he had a microalbumin now because he's positive for diabetes? We want to make sure he doesn't have an indication of nephropathy or comorbidities associated with diabetes.
I got to stay off the sweets then. I don't want to lose any limbs.
That's a good comment. That's exactly what we do. Now that information, so we take that individual lab result, make more information out of it, and trying to help the system, like your health plan, say, I'm going to call Alex today because he needs a microalbumin. I know he's diabetic. I need to make sure he's also not at risk for kidney problems.
Super.
So we're going to call him up and do it. So that's kind of the aspect of where I play. That's what I do for TriCore.
No, and I think that's important because having that data, especially in a large populace, and getting it directly from the access of each individual and then blowing out into a larger scale study has a more proactive approach to people's health than a reactive one. And I think the reactive approach is what gets people sick, drives up the insurance costs, right? Creates a whole slew of problems that we don't want to deal with. Even losing limbs, for instance, because you didn't know you were diabetic. So having the ability to actually, track an individual from their own accordance or them saying that it's okay, you can look at my health records from the past, right now, and then continue to do it forward, creates a little bit of a better approach to that study, becomes it's proactive and reactive to everything that you're doing.
I think it's amazing how intelligent you and the individuals at TARTLE are, because you just literally spelled out the business model of what I do, and you're 100% right. The laboratory is classified as ancillary in healthcare. I can't do anything unless the physician orders it. Even if for example, you come back to the lab and I know you're diabetic, you're 6.7 A1C.
Right.
And your physician ordered the lipid panel, but he didn't order the microalbumin. I can't call the physician. I can't ask you to call your physician. I can't change anything.
Right.
And as ancillary, that's really interesting that we are the majority of medical decisions, but we can't do anything. So our focus is
backwards, does it not?
Exactly. That's actually our biggest mission statement is in my department. we want to be tertiary.
Yeah.
We want to be able to say, Alex, come to us first. We're going to make the interaction with your physician more beneficial.
Well, as it should, because you guys are the data house, you're the data analyzer, and you are the ones that give the physician the foundation for them to make a decision on.
Yeah.
So why don't you just cut through the wait? Because when it comes to health, the longer you wait, the sicker you're going to get.
Yeah.
If they can just do it with one person, as you say, the tertiary, the third level,
yeah,
just do it right there.
Yeah.
And they'll have all access to that data, and they can see how it moves back and forth. And being able to do those studies in the long term, you would have the most pronoun research facility probably in the globe to have that ability to get from all those people.
Yeah.
And you'd move from a 6 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10.
So we hope. Yeah.
That extra 40% is probably that driving thing. And, I would hope that data in the future can help solve these problems. And I'm glad that speaking with you and what your mission does at TriCore, you guys are aligning with what we believe at TARTLE also. And I think that's important. I think other people need to see that message and also embody what you guys are trying to do.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a great comment, Alex. On that aspect of TARTLE and what your guys' mission is, I find it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So you want to elaborate on that, and then maybe we can align on why it's important for an individual to own their own healthcare data, and to understand how it's used, and perhaps even the value around it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's not, on the first thing that we focus on as TARTLE is hey, there's a monetary value. There's a measurement to this information about you. Okay, but beyond that monetary value, the answers that it can solve to some of our most pressing questions, even the health about yourself, can be solved. It's just about getting that access, getting that data in the hands of the right people that want to do good with it. And those are the people that we would hope would be on the exchange, like you and other facilities, other biopharma, to come and be like, hey, we now have access to individuals, their full EHR records, their DNA records, full genome sequence, behavioral data. This can tell us a much greater story. Then your resources, that expenditure, becomes much more efficient, right? You become much more proactive, and that'll lead to saving those lives. And doctors will have a stronger foundation when they go to give a clinical recommendation to somebody on how they should go and live their life.
Love it.
But it's all going to start with people understanding, hey, this is our health record, this is the information I've created, this is how I've treated myself, there's a value to it. Why don't I combine all those things into one package and do a massive amount of good not only for myself, but everyone else, because my information will help save other lives too. And it becomes altruistic at that point.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. I think you said something that I was kind of thinking, we were going to elaborate on, which is the biopharm aspect.
Yeah.
So if I were able to share with a biopharma company that I'm hepatitis C genotype 3, and this isn't a great example, but that would give the biopharma company an idea of okay, this is how many genotype 3s are out there.
Correct.
And if I have the other information related to this patient, I now know exactly what you said. Why does the patient need this drug, and what's going to be the effect on them? How am I going to change their life? And I think that would, your guys' mission would dramatically change how a lot of healthcare decisions are made, because it'll understand the whole life of a patient. Not just, I'm creating a drug specific for this specific infectious disease.
Correct.
I know, based on all these individuals that have shared their information with me, how is this going to affect them before and after that drug is prescribed.
And what's interesting about it is that you're not only introducing the drug and it's affecting one person, you can see the change day to day, because with the records and them being shared with these companies, you can see how that drug is affecting an entire populace of people across a period of time.
Exactly.
And that's a fantastic tool of study, and that gives you that immediate feedback that you're going to want. Yep. Even if it gets passed by a Class 3 FDA trial, fantastic. Yeah. But now let's see how it actually works in the real world.
Yeah.
Outside of just a small group of people that were handpicked.
Yeah.
So I hope we can do a lot of good with it, and I hope in the future we can find some sort of integrations with you guys at TriCore, and that we pair these missions, find these parallels, and we can do a lot of good with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah, because I think it's really important for everyone to understand. Healthcare is out for the better mission of health. But with the nuances associated with HIPAA and what's called sensitive testing, there's a lot of things we can't do to share with other organizations.
Correct.
So if individuals can own their own information, own their health, and understand, hey, if I'm going to share this for this specific reason, it's for a benefit.
That's right.
And I think the mission that TARTLE has around that for its users to get an understanding that there is value there, not just in the sense of I'm going to make a dime today. It's if I share this, it's going to help everyone understand what we're trying to tackle.
Yeah, and in a full circle effect, it's pretty reflexive. It's going to help you in the end also.
Yeah.
And think about that transfer, all those legal barriers that you have, it's a consent when I'm an individual giving that to another corporation or person or entity.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about all those steps in between.
Yeah.
I can just directly share.
Yep.
There's no waste of time, there's no legal paperwork, there's no financial waste, it's just one and done.
Yeah.
We remove the middleman and it just becomes a more seamless process. And that's the point of the marketplace.
Yeah. And I like it. It's a great mission.
Cool deal. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, not at all. I just admire what you guys are doing. I think what your team is I just love the reversed approach.
Thank you.
You know, there is value in healthcare data. Now, when I wouldn't say value in the data, what we do is we focus on the information. So
Yes.
we take data and make information out of it. I think that's what a lot of individuals and companies are focused on. And if your users are more aware of that, they're more understanding of, hey, I can be part of a bigger global picture.
Right.
And I can understand, companies are trying to do things that help benefit me and the individuals like me.
Yeah.
It's huge, and I like it.
And I think if we remove that kind of fear-based thing, saying everyone's just abusing our information, and then there's actually companies trying to do that good, I think we need to shine light on people like you doing that good.
Oh, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like I said, my CEO is very firm on the data belongs to the patient. We're never ever going to share it with someone else without their consent. We will make information out of it for the better of their care.
As you should.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're totally supportive of TARTLE and appreciate your guys' mission.
I appreciate that, Rick. And how would people find either you or more information about TriCore? Where would they go?
Oh, good comment. You can go to our website, tricore.org. You can review our privacy policy and all those types of things that are related to protecting information.
Okay.
Specifically for me, I guess you can find me on LinkedIn.
There we go.
There you go. I'll plug myself. You can find me on LinkedIn if you have any more questions around that. And I guess that's all I can really share about my info right now.
No, cool deal. Listen, I appreciate that. That was really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Easy enough, huh?
Yeah, man. My friend.
Thank you for listening to TartleCast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path. What's your data worth?